We talk a lot about financial planning here, covering everything from income to expenses, assets, liabilities, savings rates, and investment returns. And today we are focusing on how, paradoxically, your attempt to increase your income could get you into even more debt. We have Ron Saharyan. He is the co-founder of Profit First Systems with Mike Michalowicz, which is a company with a mission to transform your business from a cash-eating monster into a money-making machine. And he joins us now from New Jersey. Hello, Ron.
Hello, Kelly. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
All right, what's drove you to create the Profit First approach?
Yeah, so the profit first approach is flipping the switch. Our audience is familiar with a formula called sales minus expenses equal profit, right? We sell, sell, sell. We manage our expenses, and whatever we have left over is what we pay ourselves with, is our profit. And so that's where a lot of people can get into trouble, right? They sell, 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 manage your expenses, and they're like, what's going on? Where'd all that money go? Right. And so, what Profit First is a behavioral methodology. It's not accounting, it's not bookkeeping. It's a way to have financial clarity so your expenses do not get out of control. So, we flip the equation. Our equation is sales minus profit equal expenses. You sell, 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 pay yourself a little bit, take a little bit of profit and run the business on everything else. And
Yeah,
that's in its
awesome.
simplest terms.
In its simplest terms, for sure. And what, why did you create this?
Because 50% of startups don't make it to year one because the entrepreneurial struggle is real. And, if we go back in time, it's been horrible. The survivability of businesses to make it to year five, year 10, let alone a generational turnover. Entrepreneurs aren't stupid. We get people to, we create things, we build things, we hire people, we market, people give us money. Yet 50% of us fail. That is horrible. We have to change it. And so it wasn't the entrepreneur's fault. It was the system's fault because all along we've been saying that profit in paying ourselves is a leftover and undesirable. But with profit, you can pay down your debt. You can celebrate the health of the company. You can hire. So let's put that first. Let's change the system. Let's change the equation. Let's stop doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah, fantastic. Can you tell us the story of a startup founder who was like really excited to boost their income for their family and only accidentally set them up? I know you used the term poverty entrepreneurship and they end
Yeah.
up accidentally doing like what goes wrong? You explained it generally, but what goes wrong and what can we learn from that?
So traditional accounting and bookkeeping is reactionary and the stuff that happens in the past. They tell you what happened. But what we need is a front windshield approach to managing our finances. Okay. By the time we get those reports from the accountant bookkeeper, a month to 3 months have already passed us by, right? And ourselves may not necessarily be keeping tidy books or up to date books, balancing a checkbook and things. Sometimes it's an afterthought. So we need a system, if you will, to ensure that we're not not overselling, sell, but making sure we're not overspending. Right,
Mm,
because what happens? It reminds me of the photographer's studio, right? So, there's a lot of amateur photographers out there that are great and they're looking to make a little extra side money. Okay. So they incorporate, they're wonderful at their crafts, take beautiful pictures. And what's happening is they're bringing in customers, and then they need to market their business. They need to do a website. They need to maybe hire a virtual assistant, and they're forgetting that they have to pay themselves. They're forgetting that they have to be profitable. They're forgetting that a lot of that money goes to film, goes to ink, goes to all sorts of stuff. And so what's happening every day is the photographer, the mompreneur, the dadpreneur, the side hustle, they're waking up every day looking at their bank balance logging into their bank account and they're saying, you know what? Wow, I have $2,000. I'm going to spend it on replenishing supplies, right? But they don't
Mm.
realize that some of that $2,000 is earmarked for supplies, but also paying yourself, also to rent, also for, marketing, all sorts of other things. And if we don't have this forethought to make sure that we have guardrails in place to curb our spending and direct it in the right places, what's going to happen, and what happens all the time, is a lot of your listeners have probably met with their accountant, and on their financials they say, you're profitable, but where'd the money go?
Yeah. There's nothing in the cash account.
There's nothing in the cash account. Exactly.
When you say they forget, like say more about that. Why are entrepreneurs forgetting about the profit?
Because it's an afterthought. Okay, what comes first is important, right? What comes last is an afterthought. So what we're doing strategically from a behavioral standpoint is telling ourselves that we'll eventually pay ourselves, we'll eventually be profitable. No, we have to change that methodology. We have to change that in our mind. We have to eliminate the doctrine of sacrifice and realize that if we approached business a little different, it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. That's it seems like such a small thing, and yet it's so foundational.
It,
Who
it you know,
who would
it
this best apply to, do you think?
Everybody. So here's the thing. Mike and I were, right now we're the largest brand on small business profitability. We're in 40 different countries. The book sold over 1 million copies. And the thing is that we need to have some sort of behavioral intercept to prevent us from doing the same thing over and over. And from a business perspective, doing the same thing and expecting a different result, that's why we're conditioned. Accountants are conditioned. They don't know this either. So that's why
Uh-huh.
not invented it. This is grandmother's envelope budgeting methodology at its purest form.
Yeah, say more about that. I know you've talked about the grandma letters and
Yeah.
your own history and background about that. Maybe that's a nice way into how it works.
Yeah. So grandmother's envelope budgeting methodology, I was very blessed for my grandmother to learn this from, I don't know, her grandmother, but taught her mine. And what that is whenever grandmother got a little bit of money, she had envelopes. Right? Envelopes. So in countries, some they had tin cans, some have ceramics, some have, pouches, whatever it happens to be. But when she went to the store, she didn't bring the whole dollar. What she did before that, she had a food envelope, right? A clothing envelope, a rent envelope, and a church envelope. And what she did is when she went to the store, she only brought one envelope, and maybe that was only a quarter of the dollar. And what she did was make that quarter last. She was inventive and creative. She didn't go there with a full bank account of a dollar, because then maybe she wouldn't be as creative or inventive. Right? Maybe we would have gotten, maybe London broil instead of ground beef. Maybe we would have gotten ice cream. But no, when our resources are limited, we're more creative, more inventive. We do more with less. And so that is Parkinson's. I don't want to get too heady, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I was going
Northcote
to ask you about that.
Parkinson.
Parkinson's
Yeah.
Law. Just say a little bit about that principle.
Yeah, so Northcote Parkinson's a historian that theorized that we humans are going to exhaust all the available resources in any given point of time. Stephen Hawkins also echoed that, right? And so that's why if I give somebody a project for $10,000 and give them 6 weeks to do it, they're going to spend $10,000 and it's going to take 6 weeks. If I give that same project to somebody else and say it's 5,000 in 4 weeks, they're going to spend 5,000 in 4 weeks. But so Parkinson's is the opposite of that. Okay. So that's where the guardrails come into play, right? Doing more with less. So that's why with Profit First, we're not using envelopes, we're using bank accounts to segment our cash for a specific purpose. So as money comes on into that theoretical envelope, a little bit of money you should earmark for paying yourself. A little bit of money should go to profit. A little bit of that money should probably go to inventory replenishment, right? And you're
Yeah.
managing the business off of everything else. But you got to take what's important for the fiscal health of the company and your sanity, right?
Yep.
Before, you have to pay yourself. You are the number one employee. No one's going to sacrifice more. No one's going to give up their weekends. No one's going to do more, right, than you. So you owe it to yourself from a behavioral perspective to reward yourself by
Now,
paying
it sounds
yourself.
like that takes some discipline. What prevents you from just stealing from one envelope to the other or one bank account to the other here?
Yes. So that's the problem, right? That's where accountability comes into play. And Profit First is an early warning system. If you can't afford it in your OpEx, that means you don't have the money to buy it,
Explain
right?
an OpEx. You used a term there. What's
Operating
an
account,
OpEx?
sorry, our
Yeah,
bank
yeah,
account where we're using to fund and run the business out of. And
right.
so if we don't have these proper guardrails in place, then it's going to, all we are is gorging ourselves on the entire amount of money that is available to us. We want to restrict that. We want, and to prevent Peter from paying Paul, it takes time. That's why you start off small. You start just start with 1%. Just start, some businesses, some solopreneurs haven't been paying themselves consistently. So let's just start with that. Try it. It's like the 401k here in America, right? That's the forced savings account.
Yeah,
Why
we
is
have the
that so
RSP up
successful?
here. Yep.
Yeah, right? Because they take it off the top and you're penalized if you get it. Okay. That's what Profit First is. It's a behavioral. And so when we first started that savings vehicle here in America, it's up to 15%, but no one took 15% and automatically put it into a savings account. You couldn't run your business, you couldn't run your household that way, right? But what we did was you start with 3%, then 5%. And then I remember my wife and I saying, holy cow, can you believe we're living with 30% of our top line salaries going into a savings account and we're still living the same?
Yeah,
Crazy.
that's like a mind-blowing idea for a lot of people that think they'll never be 30%. Like,
I
how could
know.
we live on 30%? Yeah.
I
So when you
know.
said it's like a early warning system, what would be some of the early warnings and some actions you take accordingly?
Yeah. So if you're operating your business and things are going really, really well, okay, and you're looking to expand, okay, and you don't know if you can afford it or not, Profit First will tell you whether or not you're able to make that investment. Because if you don't, if you're paying yourself, if you have your inventory under control, you have your profit, and maybe some of that profit is going to pay down debt or whatever it happens to be, and you want to hire somebody and you don't have money in that operating account to buy that person or that equipment or that new location, you can't do it. You have to sell more. You have to increase your margins. You have to build up those reserves. What happens most of the time is people guess. I think I can
Mm-hmm.
hire somebody. I think I'm making enough money. No, we have to figure that out, because if you bite off more than you can chew, then you're going to forego paying yourself, right? You might work late hours. You might miss your son's soccer game or, whatever it happens to be, because you're trying to get the money in to justify that purchase. Well, in reality, you probably weren't there to begin with.
Right. And again, we're back at that root issue of well, that's how people get into debt is, oh, I need to spend money in order to get the sales. I need that extra person to get the sales. And what you're saying is, no, look at your
Mm.
situation here and don't spend when you don't have the money. Now, is there a time where it's worth the investment, even though you look at your numbers and you go, not really sure the money's there?
Yes, there is. I'm not, I believe in positive debt, right? And so if you have to take a loan for a future investment, or you're not 100% sure, one of the things we can do is called testing the elasticity of the cash flow. Okay. What that is, it's a real simple formula, and I use it here all the time. Say, for an example, I want to hire somebody. Okay. It's going to say it costs $2,000 a month. What I'm going to do is live the lie first. Okay. What is that? I'm going to act as though I already have that employee. I'm going to open up a new bank account and I'm going to allocate, well, I'm going to call it new hire. Okay. I'm going to take $2,000 a month and I'm going to move it into that new hire account. Can I pay all my bills the first month? Yes or no? Say yes. The second month, move $2,000 into that account. Can I still pay all my bills? Yes or no? Yes. I do it a third month. Okay. Can I still pay all my bills? Yes. What I've just done is proven that if the company remains the same, I can afford that resource at $2,000. What I've done additionally is I've already prepaid that first 90 days of salary. So from a behavioral perspective, I'm thinking, great, now I can educate. Now I can teach. Now, I'm not worried about how they're going to pay themselves. I'm focused on the education of getting them up to speed. Okay. And
Yeah.
so that's how we would use profit first. So we don't necessarily guess on whether or not we can afford something or somebody.
So when you say elasticity, you are testing whether what you've already got in place can flex, so to speak, as if it's happening.
Yes.
And by that time, you've actually saved 3 months worth of salary for the person, which probably takes the pressure off,
Yep.
right? Versus the guessing game of like, I guess if I hire someone, sales should maybe go up, right?
Yep.
It's really putting in that foundational checkpoint.
It's
Um,
living the lie first. I might as well, right? It's fancy to say testing the elasticity of the cash flow,
very
but
fancy, super
yeah, but
fancy.
when it comes down to it, what we're doing is living the lie to make sure that when it comes truth, we can do it.
Oh, that's so good. I thought you said living the life, but you
Oh no,
living
living
the
the lie. I'm
lie.
sorry. It's the Jersey in me, right?
No,
No,
it's good. I
let's
kind of
live the
like the
lie
double entendre.
first. Yeah.
All right, listen, after years of helping people beat this basically cash eating debt dragon, because I think that's what ends up happening is people go more into debt and they can't even pay themselves. And then they got all kinds of problems on the personal side too.
Yeah.
What's the real game changer? What's the real game after all this stuff you've been doing? What's the real game changer?
The real game changer is the eye opening of the business owner once it clicks, once they get it, once they're sick and tired of doing the same thing, once they've hit ground rock bottom and then they're dragged across it, when they've had enough, right? And they're willing to really be open to new concepts and ideas. But the game changer, Kelly, is not just being open to new ideas, but actually strengthening the mental fortitude to get through the learning curve of this new idea, this new system, this new product, this new feature, right? That's the true strength, right? Because when we're exposed to something new, whether it's a system or a software program or a car, it takes a little bit of getting used to, right? Too often we want an immediate result, and it's frustrating to learn something new. And what that is it's your actually synapses refiring. That uncomfortableness is you growing and learning. So as you're open to these new concepts and you embrace these new concepts, get ready for the uncomfortable feeling of learning. This is where you remember what I'm saying to strengthen your mental fortitude to get through that uncomfortable point. It's like the learning curve of going to a gym, right? It stinks in the beginning, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah. And you've talked before about mindset as being kind of essential to get you through that whole thing, or is there more to the mindset piece?
It is mindset. It really is mindset because, if we don't have the right mindset to persevere, we're going to pack it in. And here's the thing. I know the audience has the right mindset. I know they're starving for a better way of doing something. And this is it. And so that's why I'm saying, listen, I get it. This is different. It's new. It's not accounting. It's not bookkeeping. It's the ultimate pay yourself first methodology. All right. Stick with it. Start small. You don't
Yeah.
just go to a gym and put on 300 pounds on the bench press,
Yeah. I think that's
right?
been very helpful. Even for me, I've started businesses a couple of times and I applied these methods this time around. And I can't believe just how simple and important it is. And yet it does, I agree with you on the mindset because it is a lot to absorb at once. And there is a lot of things that entrepreneurs are under pressure from many different directions. Sometimes it's hard for them to tackle the new approach. Can you share an example of how someone overcame that, given all the various distractions? Sounds like sometimes you're dragging them.
Yeah, and your organization is perfect for it, and it's called accountability, right? And so I've learned that anytime a business can partner up with a coach, can partner up with an organization, whether it's a group or working with you directly or, under a program to assist and help the buddy system getting through these new things. Absolutely. I have a coach. Mike has a coach. Everybody. It's these coaches are very important. Now, if you can't necessarily afford one, there's plenty of great resources out there, and there's plenty of great people out there that love to help. Right? You're never going to get what you don't ask for. So there's a lot of great services out there that if you simply raise your hand and realize that, okay, I don't get it. I need some assistance. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. Right? So
It's
go
worth
get it. It's there for the
realizing you
taking.
don't. I don't even think it's really entrepreneurship anymore. I think it's teampreneurship.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right? In our
Yeah.
gold program, which we help people getting out of debt, we emphasize both tangible and intangible benefits of moving from debt, obviously, to getting out of debt and to profit.
Yeah.
So beyond the tangible profit, what would you say are the intangible benefits of profit first?
Yeah. So the first thing that everybody experiences when they start with profit first is relief. Relief that they actually have a cash flow system. Okay. That's very important. Now, when you operate the system, what happens is they're empowered. It's often the first time creatives, startups are in control of their money. They're empowered. They're actually paying themselves. They're moving money to here. They're doing this. That's empowerment. So, one, relief. Two, empowerment. Now that you have the relief, you have a system, you're empowered, you're following the system. Now you're actually focused on growing your business because everything is taken care of. You're not worried about how am I going to pay myself? How am I going to keep my expenses in control? How am I going to pay down my debt? How am I going to be profitable? No, you can focus on delivery and creation. Those are the intangibles that you can't put a price tag on.
I totally agree with all of those. And I would add on the empowerment, and the first time I went to the bank, and you have to be determined because the banks aren't totally set up, especially in Canada, to create multiple accounts. And there is some little tricks around that to not get a bunch of bank charges by setting up multiple business bank accounts. But once I had named them, operating expenses, profit, money coming in, owner's salary, and a percentage beside each of what my goal was, what I'm aiming to allocate whenever any money came in, it just was super simple. A little bit to get it set up, I have to say, but the
Yes.
empowerment was there for sure. All right, what would you say are your top 3 tips for anyone who wants to get started with the Profit First system?
Okay. First one, read the book. Right.
And
Second one
persist,
is,
I would say with that, persist, because there's some real meaty details and some numbers in there that could be a little daunting for some, but I think it's really worth it. So just
yeah, or listen to it. Mike does a wonderful job of sharing. He riffs in the book. The second thing too is give it a try. Give it a try. It's not going to ruin the business if you start small, right?
yeah.
What is your pain point? Do you have too much debt? If you have too much debt, right? I love the snowball debt effect. I love paying that down. I would open up a debt eradication account, right? Open up that debt eradication account and start allocating a small percentage in there.
And
Simple.
that's different
That's
than your
what's keeping
operating
you.
expenses and your other
Yeah.
ones. Okay.
Yep.
That's a good
Just
tip.
take
That's number 2.
automatically like cost of goods, if you will. Treat it as that important. Treat it as that money isn't yours. Take 1 or 2% right off the top of every invoice, put it into a special bank account, put on that bank account debt eradication. And the only thing you can do with that money is pay down your debt
All right. Was
and
there a
stick
third one?
with it. Stick with it
Stick
is
with
the
it. Stick with it.
stick with it.
Stick with
Yeah,
it.
and the additional thing, everybody's experience has got them to this level. Okay. Your experience has got you here. Take a swing, right? You may not hit a home run. Okay. You might even strike out the first time, But here, if you're not taking a swing, you're never going to know. Okay. You're all good enough to get you to this point. Give it a shot. You get in the batter's box, take a swing. You might hit a home run, but if you don't at least try, you'll never know.
Yeah. Where can people go for more resources?
Yeah. So you can go to profitfirstprofessionals.com. In there, there's tons of resources that are available to help anybody get started. I'm also on LinkedIn. Anybody can connect with me on LinkedIn. Be more than happy to help anybody out that I can.
And didn't you say you had like 10 years of podcasts or something?
Yeah. Oh, we have a podcast. It's called Grow My Accounting Practice Podcast.
Oh,
It's not really accounting focused at all. It's business focused. And we've been doing it for over 10 years and we just celebrated our 500th episode.
excellent. Ron, it's been a pleasure to speak with you. Lots of wisdom, lots of insights, and I'm confident it will help lots of people out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share. And with everybody, may the profits be with you. Take care.